Welcome back on the AM show. We get into our big stories, but right before we get into all of that, prepare for an exhilarating experience at the Grand Fair of the 2023 EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair. Join us at the Accra International Conference Center from Thursday, November the 23rd to Sunday, November the 26th, 2023, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day. Now, come engage with experts who would guide you through the home ownership process. The 2023 EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair is more than an exhibition. It's the gateway to your dream home. The EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair is in partnership with EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, and powered by the planned City Extension Project from Cities and Habitats Rent to Own. It's also sponsored by Elegant Homes and General Construction Limited, where quality meets value, Global Lighting, your solution to quality lighting, Syntex Tank, a strong, a tough, Gold Key Properties, building prestige since 1997, Springfield Estates, where dreams are built, Virtual Security, complete security solutions, DBS, your roofing experts, Virtual InfoSec Africa, security solutions by design, Saint-Gobain, making the world a better plan, Clifton Homes, beautiful homes, wise investments, and the Kensington Heights, Airport City Kumasi by HDG Homes Limited. Again, before we get into our conversation, I was just sipping on some water. Guess what? You know my favorite, Awake Purified Drinking Water. And here's why. We know water is life, but Awake Premium Purified Water is treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. Guess what? If you're thinking of sizes, they have the perfect ones. 330 ml, 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 milliliters for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more, like yours truly. They also have 19-liter jar bottles ideal for homes and offices. All you must do now is drink Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. So choose a bottle of Awake Purified Drinking Water today and get quality top-notch hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, remember, it is one for life. For every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's another quality product from Casapreco Company Limited. For bulk purchases, just reach them on 0262 351 251. This advert is FDA approved. And we know the show is approved by you. Thank you for staying. Up next, we're going to be having lots of conversations on our national life issues germane to all of us. We'll talk about the MPP electing Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia as its flag bearer, among other issues. The minority has said that until the La General Hospital project takes off, we see some concrete action, they're going to impede the 2024 budget. What are the dynamics? We get into that with our guest. He is Member of Parliament for the Guan Constituency. Kofi Adams is his name. Kofi, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for the opportunity once again.
How is Guan?
Well, Guam is okay. Generally, it's part of Ghana, so everything happening anywhere, maybe apart from the president's hometown, is happening also in Guam. We are suffering investments, lack of investments, no interest by government in terms of our key needs, such as roads, things that cannot be done by the people and which government must lead the process. There's total failing on the side of government. And I say so because the community cannot construct their own roads. Indeed, construction of roads is beyond the budget limits of poor municipalities like ours. And so it is only central government that can respond to such needs. And when central government fails or stops ongoing projects, such as road projects that were the previous administration commenced implementation on, then you tend to have your people suffering so much. They try as much as they can to cultivate crops, both cash and food crops. Sometimes it gets locked up in the farms because of poor routes to move it to marketing centers. And so that is one of the key needs of the people of Guam, which we continue to struggle. I have engaged the roads minister a number of times, assurance after assurance, even on the floor of the house where when you speak, it's expected that it will be done. Timelines were given. there's still nothing is happening. So that is the status of WIM now in terms of development. But otherwise, it's a peaceful place. It's a serene place that I keep inviting people to come to. When you visit WIM constituency, any part, whether eastern or western part of the constituency, you just feel like wanting to stay, even for more, because you enjoy fresh air. Everything is fresh. There is no pollution in that part of the country, and we have very beautiful mountains for people who love mountains, and we also have valleys for those who want to stay in the valley. So we have virtually everything. So WIM is good.
Let's also talk about, well, the last time we had an interaction, you spoke about the Agenda 111 project there. Sure. Is there any update? Is there any work happening on the ground?
It's at the footing stage. I think they are now filling what the contractors would describe as footing level. So maybe they will cast the appropriate concrete and start raising the block. So I do pray and hope that the contractor will continue the pace he has begun and maybe quicken it when we cross the filling stage for us to see the project completed, and that's all our prayer.
So that's your prayer. Is it something at least then? Is it something at least then? Looking at, we'll get to the La General Hospital later, but at least in your constituency, Agenda 111 has taken off. If this administration, the president has promised that by the end of his tenure, these projects would have been completed. Is it then something you want to applaud this government for?
Well, the reason such investments are good, but then if a government tells you and the leader tells you that it has to take a disaster like COVID to give him that shock to want to see investment in the healthcare delivery, then I was wondering what type of leader we had. Because even without COVID, the person you took over from was investing heavily in healthcare delivery, building hospitals, huge ones, to make sure that our health needs are met. Only for you to abandon all these projects. And then we got confronted with COVID. But for the facilities built by the previous administration under John Dramani Mahama and late Professor J.E.A. Mills, would have been found wanting. And that when it comes to health infrastructure, the NDC truly stands very tall. Very, very, very tall. And we know about this. And so I was surprised that instead of continuing, you waited for disasters to strike, for us to suffer, before you realized that you needed to build hospitals. But even the promise that you were going to do them in within 2 years has not been met, because not a single one has seen any completion.
Okay, so you have a point there, but in terms of the NDC stands tall in healthcare, can you name some facilities you think, or some outlets that make you think you stand tall?
Every regional hospital that we have in Ghana, in the previously 10 regions, was built by the NDC administration, under Jerry Rawlings and under Professor Mills and John Dramani Mahama. Not a single one goes to the credit of MPP. Then moving further down.
They are putting up 111. That can counter all of those.
The 111 that you have no special funding, that has not been, not even a single one has been completed per their own timelines that they set. I'm seeing many of these health infrastructure that they've commenced being completed, or the heavy work will be done by the NDC. They have just named it. They have just talked about it. I believe strongly that it is the NDC that will come and find a way of completing many of these health facilities, because we always believe in doing such things. Today, health professionals are leaving the country. They are leaving not only because of poor pay. Many are also leaving because they are not getting any opportunity. Those times when you finish medical school as a medical doctor, there was no way you will be at home without job. Today, doctors are staying home long after they finish their work and waiting to be called and not being called. As for nurses, the least said about them, the better. If this government had continued the investment in health, in other words, building more hospital facilities and getting them to completion level, they will have to be populated with health professionals. So you will need nurses. You will need those who will be in the X-ray department. You will need doctors. You will need all kinds of health service professionals. But the government decided to abandon ongoing projects. And so what has happened is that nurses leave and they can't get place to put them in. And many of them have to leave. So you've spent money, trained them, they leave, go and work for other countries that have not trained them. So that's the situation we find ourselves in.
Well, of course, under your tenure, the NDC's tenure, you can also talk about the Bank Hospital. I actually did a story on that a long time ago, the UGMC, and of course, an outlet that was already there, the Rich Hospital, now becoming the Greater Accra.
The Greater Accra Regional Hospital.
With some retrofitting.
With huge, not just huge investment. Of course, when you go there today, what is there now is not what it was when it was referred to as Rich Hospital. And the phase 2 is supposed to have continued almost immediately, but this government had delayed the
speaking of which, one problem I usually have, the Rich Hospital or the Greater Accra Regional Hospital. Have you been there recently?
No, I've not been there.
In many ways, it's falling apart. I went there years ago, saw what had been done and everything. It looked spick and span. One problem with our country is maintenance. So you go there now, and many of you see walls with all kinds, so many things are happening. And you ask yourself, how can we as a country remain like this? Well, you expend so much of taxpayers' resources, and then after a few years, you should go there, go and see for yourself.
I will pass there. Now that you have given this indication, I will pass there, just walk through and then check some.
Go to the wards. Go into the wards.
Yeah, of course I will go into the wards. I mean, I will go into the wards and try and see what it is that is going on there. But you are very right that we invest so much, but maintenance culture. And as a result of that, we always continue to spend so much. It's like road construction. You construct a road, and necessarily a small pothole will emerge in one point or the other. When it does, what you have to do is to cure it immediately by sealing it. But when you fail to seal it, because we are in a country where rain falls for a longer part of the year, maybe more than 6 months, you may be experiencing rains. Water will collect in these small holes that have occurred on the roads. And because you've not treated it, it continues to expand. It continues to expand. It continues to expand and now become huge potholes on our roads, damaging the road completely. So now you have to do fresh construction. But if we were maintaining the maintenance unit of either the highways or the feeder roads, were doing the work that is expected of them, you can have your road lasting longer than we have in this country. So maintenance is very important part of maybe every project that we do or that we should be doing in this country. I believe if we take serious maintenance culture, we'll be able to save a lot. It's like a vehicle. You buy a car and you decide not to service it, your vehicle will break down. No matter how new, no matter how solid the vehicle is, what keeps a vehicle going is regular servicing. Right. The change of oil, the checking of the tire pressure, and so on, and the brakes, and all those things that you need to do regularly. Once you do so, your vehicle will be very healthy. It doesn't matter whether it is a 2019 or whether it is a 2000 vehicle or 1999 vehicle. Once maintenance is appropriate, regular, and correct, you will have your vehicle being so healthy.
And if I may just chip in, one country that showed me a very good example of that, you know, the Cubans had, from the 1950s, when the embargo was placed on them, they were stuck with the vehicles they had. Those old vehicles. That's something that if you ever go to that
country, when you go there, that's what you always write.
And somehow they have managed to maintain them. I remember traveling to all of these places, the Enfuegos, to La Habana, and all of these places. You'd be using 1950s vehicles, and they were still on the road. So core points there. Definitely maintenance, that is maintenance is key.
It's key.
Very quickly, I want you to look at this bit because you're in the Buim constituency. Something happened in election 2020 that got a lot of tongues wagging, electorally speaking, and that had to do with the Gulf, the people of Santo Kofi, Akpafu, Lolobi, and Likpe.
Yeah.
Now, the Guan constituency is in the process of being created. Yeah. What do you make of that?
Well, it's welcoming news that the CI at long last has come. The CI that we were told was ready in November of 2020 has taken a lot of pressure, a lot of questioning, a lot of press releases and talks, and finally, the Attorney General claimed that he had given his opinion and everything, we kept waiting and waiting. It has come. It's been late and it's counting. We heard news of the EC's intention to withdraw the CI again, but yesterday, in a meeting with the subsidiary legislation, it was made clear that that intention is no more happening, and so the CI will travel its full course, and after 21 days of sitting, it will mature for the Guan constituency to have been deemed created. And in the same time, the electoral areas in both Jasikam and Guan district would also be legally and constitutionally be seen to have been created to enable those electoral areas also participate in the district level elections to have their assembly members and unit committees equally elected. So it's good, except that the injustice that have been done the people of Guam, that is the four traditional areas, can never be compensated for by the mere creation of a constituency, which would only kickstart in 2025 after the 2024 general elections. Now, as we speak, they are losing a lot. You know, there's a portion of the District Assembly Common Fund, 5%, which is set aside and distributed among the members of Parliament for emergency intervention. Most times when emergency things happen, it takes quite a long time for the assemblies to respond. So the MPs sometimes intervene, like a school roof is ripped off. There's a need for agent intervention. The MPs can go in. So that percentage is set aside and distributed among MPs. The Guan district is losing that 5%, which should have gone to them because they do not have a member of Parliament. In the same vein, when you go to the health insurance, a percentage of the fund is also set aside for health intervention projects by the MP. They are losing that one also. You go to Get Fund, a percentage is set aside and given to the MPs to support educational-related projects through the district directors of education. That also, they are lacking it. Then, of course, the Social Intervention Fund, which is also given to the MP for some social intervention activities through any of the agencies that is chosen, either health, education, or district assembly itself. They have lost that one also because they do not have MP. That cannot be cured as far as the 8th Parliament is concerned. So for 4 years, because of government's decision to act in the way they acted, and the Electoral Commission denial of same for them to vote in the 2020 general elections, they have lost all.
Yes, but better late than never. From 2025, in the 9th Parliament, they will have representation. Something that comes up linked to that is also this question. That would then mean we would have 276 members of Parliament.
Sure.
Some have raised the question that with an even number, it could create even more problems when it comes to voting in Parliament.
No, it doesn't. That actually solves a lot of problems. It solves a lot of problems. Until the 2012, we have had only even-numbered Parliament. It used to be 200 from 1993 till President Kufuor's era, when 30 was added to 230. Yeah. You see, most of the laws makes it more than half, more than this, more than that. And so when it was 200 and they say more than half, you know that more than half is 101.
Right.
It's clear, well defined, because we do not have a half human being. Then when it went to 230, when they say more than half, you know that it should be more than 115.
Right.
Very clear, because we do not have half human being. When it went to 275, we have always struggled with the more than half.
Okay.
Because when you divide 275, you'll be getting 137.5.
Right.
So people have argued. So what is more than half? Is it 137 or 130?
So this will restore some balance.
This will restore some balance. This will restore some balance. Where it says to test, you can always do the necessary calculation and arrive at correcting the value to possibly a nearest whole number. So I think that an even number is better managed, better understood. It will not create any controversy when the Constitution says you need more than half of the all members were present and voting. It resolves it straight away.
Let's get into the issue of the selection of Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia as flag bearer of the NPP. It has been received with mixed reactions. A few days ago, we actually had interactions with some people in the Ashanti region, Kumasi, to be specific. Then we also interacted with some students from the University of Ghana. It was interesting listening to the different sides and what they had to say. Yeah. But with this election, from where you sit, what does it mean for your party, the NDC?
Well, personally, and I must say that for a lot of persons that you speak to in the party, some of whom I have known have been part of developing strategies for the party all this while, it's welcoming news for us to have Dr. Bawumia on the ticket of our main opponents, the New Patriotic Party, because it makes it good. It will be an election that you will have records to compare. You will have the record of the NDC candidate there, and Ghanaians will see it clearly, and you have the record of the MPP candidate there, and nobody will attempt to run away from it. When you listen to Honorable Kennedy Ajepon's strong campaign, he made it very clear that the people who took us to, who mess up the economy, in other words, people who made things so worse and bad than it was when they took over, cannot break the 8. He even added, people who took us to IMF after destroying everything cannot break the 8. So admittedly, they themselves know that record comparison will be a key thing in the 2024 elections. And look at the votes that Kennedy got. He got 37% of the, or even 38. I should say.
Yeah, 37 plus, I think about 37.
37 point something. So
the vice president had 61.47.
Yeah. So
he had about.
So let me round it to 38, and when you add the others, that will be about 39. So 39% of MPP executives, these are not just mere voters, indicated clearly that the vice president who ultimately got elected per their constitution is not the best material for them and for the country. And so for us, we are happy that it is him, because it makes it easier to compare and makes it easier for people to make their choices.
But doesn't necessarily do that. If you look at the trajectory from Edubuahin, and let me just look for the statistics. We've had it on Joy News, we've put it out there.
About performance of...
Not even performance. It's about the trajectory of candidates, those who have wanted to be flag bearer. There it is. So if you look at the MPP presidential primaries from 1992 to 2023, you would realize that Albert Edubuahin in 1992 secured 56.6% of the vote. That is for the first time, once they went for the first time, which is what Dr. Bawumia has done. J. Kufuor in 1996 secured 51.99%. In 1998, for the second period, then he secured 64.6%. Nana Akufo-Addo, for the first time, secured 47.97% in 2007. In 2010, he secured 78.89% and then went on to secure an even bigger margin with 94.35% in 2014. Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, for the first time, comes in and secures 61.43%. It's more than any first-timer has secured in the MPP.
Which of these persons you've mentioned had less than 64% and won an election? that they went into, the general elections they went into?
Well, in 1998, for the second time, J. Kufuor secured 64.6% and won the election.
So it wasn't less than 64%. That's why I'm giving you that. And in the J. Kufuor's elections, he had not had a taste of power. Ghanaians, at least at that moment, were yearning for change. In the year 2000, they were yearning for a solid change. And don't also forget that our party then suffered some kind of losses. We had a reform party emerge. And so all of these were against us with the emergence of our candidate. But clearly speaking, like I said, nobody has attained less than 64% and won a general elections before. And all these first-timers that you are talking about did not also win the general election. So if we are going to do such an extrapolation, then we can clearly say that with 61-point-something%, you are going to lose the elections also. That is one. Two, all the other persons, I'm surprised that anybody will want to compare the opportunity Dr. Bawumia has had on the MPP to that of Professor Albert Edubuahi. Professor Albert Edubuahi, after a long break of political activity, was just emerging. J. Kufuor had also not been a vice president before. He was also engaging.
He had been a minister before, I believe, under Bush.
That was long, and many persons who were with him then had even left and joined other parties. There were some persons who were with him in the Progress Party time who have left and joined either Guan. A lot of changes happened in the 1992. Some joined NDC, some even went to CPP, some CPP persons found their way in NDC, some even found their way in MPP like the Freddie Blaze and then the rest who later on even joined the MPP. So a lot happened. He has not been known. The next person will be Aliyu Mahama. May he so rest in perfect peace. The longest Aliyu Mahama had was from the year 2001 to 2007. That is 7 years of exposure. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia have had 15 solid years.
So you're adding all the periods from 2007.
From 2007
when Akufo-Addo
picked him,
running mate.
He had been at the forefront for 15 solid years or more. And so these are not the same. The level of exposure Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia have had, the opportunity he's had, is not the same as all other previous first-time contestants. All other previous first-time contestants. The closest is Alhaji Aliyu Mahama, who was vice president, running mate and vice president, and he would have had it for 7 years, from 2000 to 2007, when he contested to lead the MPP and didn't get the opportunity. So people are forgetting all these levels, these many years of exposure as flag bearer and vice president, and that counts a lot. So why would...
You think that is part of what worked for him?
Of course, it worked for him, but it also exposed him as a weak person.
I see.
In both ways. It worked both ways. His exposure, therefore familiarity. There are people who will go for him because he's been there. They feel like, oh, he's there. He's the heir apparent and what have you for the long period that he's been there. Coupled with the system backing him and wanting him to emerge. And so everything was done. And that was why, if you observe, during the first round of the superdelegate elections, when there were 10 candidates, all the 9, everybody had cause to complain about the influence of the system in favor of one person. And that informed their decision at the NEC to have the superdelegates conference organized at the regional levels instead of bringing all of them together, or even at least zoning, maybe putting up 2 zones, the northern zone and maybe the southern zone, so that persons could mix and not feel threatened in order to vote in a particular way. They refused. Subsequently, we saw what happened. It led to resignation of persons like Alan Kojo Chiremanteng from the party. Now he forming his own movement for change or what have you. Others equally complained. When it came down to the 4, the 3 of the 4, all of them kept complaining. including Dr. Efiye Akoto, Adainimo, and Kennedy Akumpreko Ajepon. All of them kept complaining.
Even before that, Boache Gajako
had also complained and decided that he wasn't going to even take part in the runoff elections to determine who enters as the fifth person. And
right.
even, so clearly, everybody realizes that the system was working for him. So that worked to his advantage. But at the same time also, majority of the people knew that Bawumia was empty.
Empty?
Empty.
How so? And you're referring to the person, by the way, that Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the current president, has called the repository of economic knowledge. I remember quoting him in Tree, Bawumia yede ewiase nina nyansa ahye ne tim.
Thank you. Yedi
how can you refer to someone like that as empty?
Yedi wiase nina nyansa ahye ne tim. Nanso yedi no kotena ho no ade a na o se enye no ne output no worse than nia na o kasa se enye. And that the record is there. That's why I'm saying this election is going to be a comparison of records. You know Dr. Bawumia, I think he appeared on some of your sister stations, and I watched that recordings, I think about 2 days ago. He spoke against debt levels. He spoke against borrowing. He talked about how inflation, debt to GDP. He talked about how bad putting taxes and more taxes on businesses is the wrong way to go. But today, what is the record? My brother, the debt that he complained about, Bawumia inherited 120 billion as debt of this country. Today, as we speak, we are almost 600 billion as our debt level. So 120 billion, which he claimed was bad, at least with evidence of huge investments. At least you have things like the Atuabo gas, you have the airports expansion, you have seaports expansion, you have rail projects that were happening, you have hospital, health infrastructure all around us, educational infrastructure all around us.
But you cannot say that the MPP has not done anything in that respect. They've continued with some of the flyovers. There's Agenda 111, there's free SHS.
Agenda 111, mention one Agenda 111.
But it's a work in progress, isn't it?
No, but factories have always been built and will continue to be built. Support to businesses will always happen. Look, the NDC supported the pharmaceutical industries heavily. For them to expand.
Agenda 111, by the way, but if you are speaking of 1D1F, the Ekumfi factory is there for all of us to see. I'm
saying that, but Ekumfi factory was built by government. It's a private person that government.
But that was part of the initiative.
Government have always supported industries to either expand or to add something to what they are already doing. So you cannot tell me that you promised us that you were going to build factories in every district. You said one district, one factory. Meaning that you were going to dictate it. Today you are saying, oh, it's private persons. When they do, then you go and support them in terms of taxes. Is that what they promised to you? In any case, so this 600 billion I was talking about. Dr. Bawumia said debt to GDP that was at 56% was bad. Now we are talking about 104%. So 56%.
If you follow what Fitch said, it said that by close of year, we'll be looking at 99%.
I've seen
a revision that even points to 80-something percent.
Ben, so 56% is bad, assuming that it's even 70%. How can 70% be better than 56%?
But the economic dynamics, they don't remain stagnant. They change.
So if they change, they change for worse, should that be good? They don't remain stagnant. We expect it to be better. This is a measure. You say debt to GDP is a measure of your debt and your growth. And when it is calculated in percentage terms, you said when a country's debt to GDP is at 56%, it's so bad. Today, it has gotten to what? 99%. So how can 99% be better? When 56% you said was not good. We should have been seeing something lower than 56%. Then we say you have done well. But anything above 56% means that you are a poor performer.
Okay.
Then let's move. No, we haven't finished. He says inflation is bad. Inflation was at what? 15.4%. Inflation rose to over what? 54%. Recently, I hear they are talking about some 42%. So even if it is 42%, 42% cannot be better than 15.4%.
Inflation rose to 54.1%.
Yes.
It's now in the 30s.
And I'm saying that whether even if it is 30, let me even come down to the lower part of 30. That is even 30. 30 levels of inflation, 30% level of inflation cannot be better than 15.4% that you criticize. So in the same vein, when we talk about the exchange rate, when you needed just 3.8 cedi and it went a little up to about maybe even 4 cedis to get $1. And today, you need about 12.7 cedi to get $1. You cannot tell me that the one who's superintendent over this situation has done better than the one who had it at 3.8%. That's why I'm saying it's comparison of what records. When they came to power in the first 100 days, when they have virtually done nothing, they have taken no decision. And even if they did take any decision, their decision will not be yielding any results yet. Dr. Bawumia organized a press conference and credited himself as being the one who had stabilized the cedi depreciation and has locked the dollar and handed the key over to the IGP for safekeeping. Today, what is he saying about this? So these records, we will compare. Interest rates. They said interest rates at 25% was too bad. Today, businesses are borrowing at 40%. Because the Treasury bills
40%?
rate... Yes, Treasury bills rate is over 33%.
I thought it was 30-something.
I'm saying that Treasury bills rate is 35%. So no bank will lend to anybody below the Treasury bills rate.
They'll look at the threshold and then add...
Exactly.
Some banks adding about 7%.
Exactly. So if Treasury bills, Bank of Ghana, that's what it's doing, 33 to 35%, then businesses are borrowing at 40%. Then you will tell me that 25% you criticize, that is bad, and you are superintending 40%, and you think that this is someone that they have put all the world sense in his head, as you accept this. When I have someone who gave me 25%, growth rate, 3.6%, they are giving us 3.1%. He said 3.6 is bad. So we expect.
But the growth rate hasn't always been this.
And I'm saying that, to be fair, if you look at the period 2017, whether it was on the back of the IMF arrangement or not, 2017 to around 2019 before 2020, you know where the growth rate is. Be factual. You know what the growth rate is. I am talking about endpoints figures that I'm giving you now. The NDC recorded the highest growth of 14%. But we were not credited for the highest that we go. We were credited for the end. They didn't even give us average. Because if we should strike average, then we were doing so well. Because we did so well, recording 14%. We were not credited for 14%. Why do you want me to credit them for 8% and not talk about the 3.1%? Because even if we strike average, it's still far below our average. If you want us to do averages, we can do averages. But I'm not doing averages for now. Budget deficit of 6.1%, he said it was bad. Today they are giving us 12% and more budget deficit. So the credit rating, we were rated B-. He said, oh, that rating was bad. Now we are a junk status. They can't even rate us anymore.
Our ratings have risen, though.
And I'm saying that we got to a situation. If we were describing the environment, it was like NDC had us in the hall. If it is a chamber and hall that I want to use to describe, we were seated in the hall. The MPP under Bawumia have taken us to a refuse dump. So you can imagine what we do at refuse dump. We dump refuse there and do all kinds of things there. That is what they did to this.
So let's. I see that you're focusing on the economic parameters.
Because President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo in 2007, in 2010, in 2016, told us clearly that he doesn't understand. He is bringing someone who will come and deal with the economic-related issues. That is why when I'm discussing Bawumia, I want to use the sector that he was marketed on.
Yeah, which some say has become an albatross around his neck.
Exactly.
So he's not the Minister of Finance.
No.
He's not the Minister of Finance.
Well, listen to this. He questioned John Dramani Mahama in 2016 that if he had any new ideas, he was in charge for 8 years. He didn't say he was in charge for even 4 years. He said you were in charge for 8 years. So he calculated even the period when he was vice president.
Right.
So Dr. Bawumia knew that as vice president, you are in charge.
In other words, especially as head of the economic management,
exactly,
he cannot extricate
himself.
Right.
So Bawumia himself has stated that standard, and that is what we are using to question him today.
Let's continue on this trajectory. So I mean, I can't wait for you to go.
Unemployment, because it's very important. Unemployment
I was actually going to mention
was recording about 8.4% under the NDC. Today, it is 14%. General unemployment
13 point something.
14%. And youth unemployment is even worse, 42%. Unemployment generally, 14%. Youth unemployment, 42%. Why do you think people are living and using all kinds of unorthodox means to leave this country? So if we are told that this is the person who has, and in all this poor performance, we have had a lot more things happening in their favor. Bank of Ghana alone funded them over 45 billion in 2022. They gave them free money. While zero was given to NDC in 2016.
That has been hotly contested. Even
contested by who?
Even our figures that we
contested
have. And
by
one of
who?
these days, I'll do that.
No,
I have seen. Hold on.
What Bank of Ghana give them?
Kofi,
yes.
Hold on. I have seen some data from the NDC, making a juxtaposition.
Yeah.
Most of them happen to be true, but some of the data in reference to no Bank of Ghana support and
in 2016
there was available to the NDC and all of that.
I'm saying that.
Tenable.
I'm saying. Let me tell you. No, Ben. In 2016, there was zero financing from the central bank.
Okay, so if you're restricting yourself to a specific.
No, I'm talking about. I told you. I'm dealing with end years.
Right.
The figures they use to attack us is what I'm dealing with. I'm not talking about maybe 2012. I'm not talking about 2013. There was still some level of financing from central bank at that time. But we took a decision that we were going to go 0% financing from what? Bank of Ghana. And in 2016, though an election year, we fulfilled that. That's what I'm referring to. And you cannot go for any other.
You also fulfilled that, to be fair, because the IMF was on your neck.
And
our governments only know how to do the right thing in terms of fiscal discipline, in terms of tightening its economic belt. Only when the IMF is backing down.
You should remember the Senche.
When they have you by the scruff of the neck.
You should remember, Ben, you should remember the Senche consensus. That we called a meeting of labor, political parties, and everybody to a meeting to engage. We prepared our own document and took it to IMF, which we were members of, and to ask for support. It's different from those who were telling you, we won't go to IMF today, we won't go to IMF tomorrow, only for them to be subjected to it. That is the difference. So we have a leader in whom you can trust, a leader that has delivered and will deliver, not one who stands to talk and give you the opposite. So in Bawumia, we do not have a problem. That's why I said it's going to be comparison of records.
Are you getting complacent? Are you taking this for granted?
Not at all.
No, hold on. I've heard some of your members say, you know what, I've forgotten who came into the studio and said this, that a member of the NDC, he said, all we have to do is mount the questions that Bawumia posed and put them on billboards or, rolling billboards so that people will see. And that will be our campaign. Yes, there are the 276, in fact, the 230 questions. There are the 130-something questions. There are the 70-something questions he posed. But crucial as the economy is, do you think Ghanaians will give the NDC the nod simply because you can punch holes in the same areas that Bawumia was able to punch holes so many years ago?
Economy is key to life and everything, but we are not going to be complacent. Indeed, you have to explain these things to the people for them to be able to have a very good understanding how it affects them directly. How government decision, how government's refusal, for example, to pay contractors is affecting that ordinary person's life all the way down there. Because sometimes when you just go and say contractors are owed 10 billion, A taxi driver far away, a kenke seller far away may think that, but if they all contracted, does it concern me? It is our responsibility to explain to them how, when that contractor is not paid, he is unable to pay the storekeeper he owes supplies. He is unable to continue his job. So the laborers who will work at his site, who will get their by day and go and buy the kenke from the kenke seller, are not buying the kenke. So you cook your kenke and you return it home. The taxi driver or the Uber driver who is running around, because that contractor was not paid and he couldn't pay his workers, when the weekend comes, they will not attempt to attend any party anywhere in order to call Uber for you to take them to that program. And so it's a chain of impact that these things have. And you cannot sit and just pose those questions and leave them and think that they will translate into votes. So we are not going to be complacent, because we know we are dealing with a candidate and a party who knows how to package rags, package it so nicely and seal it so well that they will sell it to you for gold, only for you to reach home and realize that you have bought rags. And you may be holding the real gold, but because you did not package it well, people will be passing you and rejecting what it is that you are.
So you
holding.
accept that the NDC has failed in the past to properly package its.
Well, we have not
so-called good deeds.
We have not been able to present our deeds very well to the people. Equally, because also some of you, the middle class, have disappointed this country. Even when MPP came and they were failing, and the science.
I find it interesting.
And the science,
you put me in the middle class.
The science were so clear. The signs were so clear. You refused to admit that the government was failing. You left it for only NDC to do the criticism. The religious leaders went quiet. When the government decided to spend money to do cathedral, when there were many other things that needed attention, and we raised some concerns about it, that let us not use state money to do it. I knew religious leaders who mounted platforms and criticized persons who were raising those concerns. Today, it has dawned on many of them that is a cathedral of lies, cathedral of corruption, and so on and so forth. And some of them have had to even resign from it. So we need to collectively play that role, because, look, we only have Ghana. You don't have anywhere to go. You can travel, you can have visas in your passport to go anywhere, but you only have Ghana. Whatever it is you do, Ghana will be your home. So when you don't speak out, when you don't get things corrected, so you have the correct leaders and you wait for propagandists to package someone who is not what he claimed to be, and then he's sold to you, then we'll all be in the country and continue to suffer. I don't think that Bawumia should have space to be able to speak anywhere and go without being questioned. People must question him. People must question his campaigners. People must question his promoters. They cannot run away from the mess they have put us in and think that he will say, oh, I will be my own man, I will do something different. When Senior Minister Yao Safomafu was praising Dr. Bawumia as being a best economic management team chair that he had ever seen, Dr. Bawumia was there and he was nodding to all those praises, that he was truly an activist economic management team chair. He was deeply involved. And Yao Safomafu is no mean person. Don't forget that this is someone who has been a finance minister before. So when he is talking about how activist the economic management team chair was, he knew what he was talking about, because he has been part of that team as a finance minister, as education minister, and also now as a senior minister, and he has seen it. At that time, he was nodding in admiration and acceptance. Today, you are running away from the economic mess that you have created. We must not allow that to
happen. All right,
happen.
and we've had a lot of comments coming through on some of these, but interestingly, I've heard a lot of MCs saying that they are, gearing up to campaign for the vice president, and we even have musicians. Gospel act Diana Asamoah has announced that she has recorded a campaign song for the New Patriotic Party in preparation for the 2024 general elections. So it appears you are late.
Bernard.
Benjamin is the name.
Sorry, Benjamin. Sorry, Benjamin. What do you expect the MCs to say when the president who we elected, who had given the little of his power to the municipal and district chief executives, himself has said that the rest of his energy his mind, his everything, he's going to put it into campaigning for Bawumia and nothing. At the time the world is confronted with problems and leaders are seeking solutions, our president is seeking to put all his energy, all his strength, all his talent into campaigning to get Bawumia elected. So all their crimes will be covered. You know, our constitutional arrangement says a president can only be taken on, whether civil or criminal action, within 3 years after leaving office for his actions that he took whilst in office.
So you think
if President Akufo-Addo succeeds everything to have Bawumia planted in there, he will be covered. So after those 3 years, nobody can investigate him or do any other thing, take any steps against him again. That's why the president says.
You think
that is why the president. All of this is about that.
Himself.
All of this is about that. That is why, in times of troubles, when world leaders, have you listened to world leaders, even in places where we have elections, even Biden, who thinks that he wants to seek re-election, he is focusing his energies on solving problems of America and even beyond. He's not talking about the next election. Even Biden, who wants to seek for re-election. Our president, who is supposed to be retiring, says that in these challenging times, when youth unemployment is so high, when there is so much hopelessness, when your own national security minister says unemployment is a security threat, when we cannot find solutions to all these myriad of problems that confront us, our president says his last assignment, all his energy, all his everything will be to elect his vice president to take over from him.
Crucially, just to cap off this end so we get to the La General Hospital, crucially, in there, you would also see that while you're saying all of this, you would have to come the ceiling of proof, evidence required to take on a former president.
Well,
hold on. It's very high per the Constitution, per our law books, and I don't know what exactly you would hang around his neck that you feel would.
You say it is high.
No, I'm just reminding you that the ceiling is rather high.
I know it's high. Our Constitution also created a block that if you don't attempt it by a certain time, you cannot even look into it. That is why.
But whether the vice president becomes president or not, you can still take up those matters in court within a 3-year period.
Benjamin, we know what had happened, that they control institutions, how the executive can manipulate virtually every institution and therefore not allow institutions to freely act in the manner that they should act. But what I'm saying is that the Constitution put a certain blockade by within a certain time. So whether the standard of proof is so high or not, over the period, Ghanaians have handled it in such a way that when a party or a president serves 8 years, you leave, another person's come, then put it through test. We must not allow a puppet to be elected a president to cover up virtually everything that we see glaringly that have gone wrong.
You're referring to the vice president. Isn't that a bit of a low blow?
Well, but that is what he's seeking to do. Why? What was not said of Professor Mills?
He said he is his own man.
What was not said of Professor Mills?
He says he is his own man.
What was not said of Professor Mills by those same persons?
In respect of former President Rawlings, may he so rest in peace.
What was not said? What was not said by current ministers against His Excellency John Dramani Mahama? But I'm not the type of person who, if anyone feels offended, well, it's withdrawn. But the truth of the matter is that the president wants to install his own person. For me, my thinking is that
but it's not the president who voted for Bawumia, the delegates did.
Well, everybody knew that.
I mean, it's not the president alone.
They commandeered every single person that they can commandeer to make sure that they rallied for Bawumia. And that was why all others were complaining. That was why did you think that Honorable Kenyatta said President Akufo-Addo Mema will show down before he mentioned Dr. Bawumia? Why did he say President Akufo-Addo Mema will show down? Why did he say so? Why didn't he say Dr. Bawumia Mema will show down first? He knew what was happening. So he knew what was happening. He is in the party. He was contesting. That's why I said President Akufo-Addo Mema will show down. Why did he add him? Why did he add him? Have you asked that question? Have you gotten an answer to it? It's because he was deeply involved. They were manipulating things. So it's so clear. And I think that Ghanaians must not allow themselves to be deceived once again. They were deceived in the past. They should not be deceived now. We must all stand up and speak against these ills. We must all get involved. You see, the situation we find ourselves is a rescue mission. It's not about just John Dramani Mahama, but he's the most experienced person that we have at the moment. He is the one who has proven that in times of difficulties, he has taken decisions that have worked to help this country. If this government had continued with the trajectory, by now we would not have been where we are. When he was building more energy facilities and they came talking about excess capacity, he had in mind that the vehicles and the rest, the industrialization of this country was going to leap. He didn't have in mind that he was going to collapse industries. He had in mind that industrialization was going to be the order of the day, and industries will need energy. But this government have gone to sleep and have worked to collapse many industries. So today, if the industries are not functioning, they will not take the power. Because you can only use what it is that you need for your production purposes. If many of them are leaving to the neighboring countries, Cote d'Ivoire and the rest, you will not have productivity going on, and your energy will stay waste.
Right. I think,
and John Mahama will want to correct.
I think we've done enough of the Baumia and the politics. I also see, of course, sometimes I think some of our viewers or the communicators of the parties from both ends, they think we don't notice. I see some of the foot soldiers, so to speak, sending in messages. You know I'll not read them, right? When I see that you are one of those and all you say is skewed in a certain line, you know I'm not going to read your messages. So don't even waste your data, because we are looking for people who are sharing incisive thoughts, rational thoughts. I beg your pardon that I'm going this way, but the party communicators, NDC, MPP, we see when you send in messages. And I usually will not read unless you shift and you are sending in something. So I'll not mention names, but if you are listening, you know whom I'm referring to. You know yourself. I'll not read those messages. They don't add anything to the show. The government has identified new funding for the La General Hospital. According to the story, Mr. Kweku Adjumamenu, the Minister of Health, says the government has concluded negotiations, identified new funding, and is in the process of advancing negotiations for contractors to remobilize to the La General Hospital site to begin work. Here's the catch. The NDC says if you don't get this on board, rolling, we're not going to support the 2024 budget. Is that something we want to do, though, especially considering where our economy is? I do agree. And this matter I have spoken of time without number. You can't take a medical facility like that. I go to that area from time to time. The people there now are now forced to go to either private health facilities or go much farther distances just to get health care. But at the same time, where we find ourselves, is this the right posture to adopt?
Benjamin, areas of investment that no matter the situation you find yourself, that you should never ignore as a government includes health, education, food, and possibly shelter. Under food, I'm talking about water and sanitation, and all those things come under there. And so, for a government to decide to pull down a functioning health facility when you had no hand on the funding, Benjamin, will you pull down, assuming that it's even a madhouse, will you pull down your madhouse completely in the name of some beautiful architectural designs that you have received when you had no funding for it? You decide to pull down your Atakpame building that was at least giving you shelter, providing you shelter. You pulled that down when you had no funding.
So this was done in July 2020.
2020.
And the sector minister, Kweku Adjumamenu, is now saying it will take off.
It will take off soon. The president himself went there to cut short, just like he did for Palugu Dam and many other things that they have cut short and nothing had happened, including my own district where they cut short for 1D, 1F. Today you can go there and hunt for antelopes and grass cutters. It is bush. Nothing has happened, not even a single block. So clearly, I want to commend my colleague, the Member of Parliament for La Dade Kotopon, for making the statement she did yesterday on
Rita Odole
Sowa. That is the type of leaders that we want and constituencies actually need. That when the issues confront your people, you bring it on the floor of the House, raise it, and you get some level of consensus from members, and it is pushed. So she made a statement yesterday on La General Hospital, and virtually everybody who contributed agreed with her. And the majority leader made it clear that he tried to explain the challenges that went through, and when the health minister said funding has been secured, he said, you cannot secure funding when it has not even come to Parliament for Parliament to approve it. And so you need to hurry and therefore bring it for. And if we don't find it in the 2024 budget, which is the last budget of this government that brought down that health facility, then of course the issues raised there will happen. Because this is our last budget. Even though it's been read in 2023, it's actually 2024 budget. So they do not have any budget to present again. This is their last budget. They only will have a review maybe somewhere in July. And we cannot wait for a review to factor such a major project like the La General Hospital project. And so whatever funding it is that they claim they have secured, whatever it is, it must find space in the budget. They would not take any deception anymore as far as the health of the people of not just La, but other surrounding constituencies depend on it, because it's the closest referral point. It's the closest referral point to even Crow and other areas. So they depend on it. It's not just the La people. As far as even Lejokuku, they all also depend on it. So it is important to have that facility. Because of lack of that facility, people have to travel long distances for a next higher level of what? Care. And it is a matter that is of great concern to us. We have talked about the support for the flood victims, that it must find space in the budget. We've talked about the sea defense project for the people of K2, the K2 area, and then a part of Keta areas that have been suffering, and even the Adan areas, because it's also important we do that project to protect lives. So anything that is geared towards protecting lives, that will regenerate the economy, that will help them support economic growth, we are in for it. And we want to see it in the budget. Government can cut e-sites, government can cut many other areas and to make savings for such other interventions. At this moment, what the president should be thinking about is bringing the Ministry of Rail Development and Transport together, reducing number of ministries and downsizing size of government. Proper downsizing should be happening, not telling us that he's going to spend his energy to campaign to get his candidate elected. That is not the end. That is not why.
Speaking of downsizing, in a recent interaction with Dr. Ishmael Yamson, Yamson and Associates, he says on the size of government, President Kofi Adams should demonstrate that he can run a lean government in his last year. But let's even look beyond that. Okay, the NDC, you've also had problems with the size of your government. Maybe the MPP has added on in numbers that we've not seen. But even with the numbers that the NDC has had, we've been told that you can do with a lot more. You look at the constitutional provisions and the 19, that are made mention of, and beyond which we can make some.
Well, extra. Even the 19 is a number given as cabinet.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
The cabinet minister.
Of course, you would have to factor in now 16 regional ministers. Some say that you can have some ministers for maybe agric or something, handling other ministries, core ministers handling regions as well. Yeah. We can take away some of the deputies. In fact, a lot of the deputies can go and all of that. How is an NDC administration going to tackle this issue? Because guess what? It goes down to it, unless you're not assessing how much every peswa we spend means. You have the Kolebu Renal Department. They need 4 million Ghana cedis. Yeah. That is about 8 V8 vehicles. Yeah. Nowadays, you see everybody, even some assembly people are beginning to ride all of these cars. You don't know where they get them from. But MCEs, DCEs, all of that, the last time I saw, they are riding in V8s. The question is that what we need as a country? Is that our most important variable in our national life? All these V8s. So you get it. The more of such officials we have, the more of such spending, and the less goes to the ordinary man at the hospital, on the road, in the classroom. That's why I'm posing this question.
I agree.
How is the NDC going to tackle something like that?
Thank you. It's something clearly that the NDC had demonstrated, and President John Dramani Mahama has demonstrated this in the past. You will observe that President Mahama decided that even though he accepts that information is key and important for development, he placed information and communication ministries together. Transport was one ministry, even though we saw massive, under one transport minister, we saw heavy investments in our Kotoka International Airport, the Terminal 3 project. We saw the Tamale Airport. We saw the Ho Airport. We saw a number of sea airports, both Takoradi and Tema 1 being expanded heavily, now receiving some of the largest ships that you can ever find in the world also can come to Ghana here. There were preparations to have a private port also in Takoradi, a private free port in Takoradi. We had rail development going on. The Tema Mpakadan rail project was a project that funding and designs and everything was done under His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. We had only one minister and a deputy that were superintending all these sectors. Today, President Akufo-Addo comes and decides to break the transport ministry to aviation, rail development, and transport with numerous deputies. So we will get back to the old system of having just transport ministry. Some are even suggesting that, as it was earlier, transport and roads should even merge so that roads and highways and transport will become one ministry. You have agreed. But the good thing is that President Mahama has made a promise to work with not more than 60 ministers. And I know him, he will keep to it. So he's going to work.
Even to be factual, even 60 is high. I mean, you ask yourself, a country of what? Some 30. Hold for me. Let me just make this point. A country of some 31 million people, 31 million plus people. You look at other jurisdictions, the Germany and other places that we go hand in hand, getting funds. How many ministers do they have? Even 60 is rather high.
Like he said yesterday, he doesn't want to make promises that may be too way off. If you get in, you could possibly maybe even manage it better. You can still come down. But he's giving that as a ceiling that he will not go beyond. And so, considering the numbers that we've had from 126 to 90 something now, considering the numbers that we've had, let's say 60 as a ceiling is a good number to start with. When we work our way through and work so well, we could be thinking about further reducing the ceiling and reducing the ceiling till we get to a point where we will take even the constitutional injunctions of 19 cabinet ministers and some special ministries that are mentioned in the constitution and free the hands of the president, but just give a certain ceiling, you cannot go beyond. So I think it's workable. There are a lot of duplicate agencies that we have that can be amalgamated into one, so they don't waste so much. And there's so much wastage in the system that we will have to work with. And we will do this collaboratively. The NDC believes strongly that we do not have all the brains, all the ideas. And that is why we always believe in that engagement. It is in that spirit that yesterday he started building the Ghana We Want tour, first by engaging with TUC. Because TUC has a lot of ideas and a lot of brains there. And any government that wants to succeed must be a friend of TUC and tap into the ideas that they have. We don't pretend that we know everything. And that is the good thing about the NDC, that we always want to bring people together and build ideas. That was why we built the consensus document, took it to the IMF, and that document saw the trajectory of growth that we were experiencing. And that was why Economic and Intelligence Unit predicted in 2016 that the MPP was going to win though, but the economic boom that we will experience in 2017 and 2018 will be so good, but not because of the decisions of the party that will win the elections. This was predicted even before we went into the elections. But when we started seeing the signs of President Mahama's decisions and policies, Dr. Bawumia took credit for it. Now, 7 years on, your own policies should be yielding results, and all we see is negative. and you say you be your own.
Well, that has tended to be a trend among you politicians.
You be your own man.
When it is rosy, you take credit for it. When it's
well,
not,
well,
you pass.
Don't forget President Mahama when they had the energy situation. He didn't go back blaming the previous administration for not investing in energy. He took responsibility, even though.
Well, mention was made of what had not been done in the past.
Yeah, but he took responsibility and said he will fix it, and he fixed it.
Okay, so to cap off the conversation, you've mentioned that engagement with the TUC, which brings to mind this bit. The TUC boss has said, on the back of President Mahama, former President Mahama, saying that he would run a 3-shift economy. Okay, so I found that to be interesting, exciting on some level because of what happens in other economies. And also because if you're running an economy that doesn't sleep, it means more jobs will be created for young people.
Sure.
The TUC boss says it will change our country and our economy forever. But again, talk is cheap.
Well,
Hold on, Kofi. As we have seen in this country, both with the NDC and with the MPP, what were we not told about taxation to production? What were we not told about roads and everything? So my point is, while it sounds exciting, Ghanaians have had a rough ride with listening to sweet talk that has resulted in nothing. Is this not just sweet talk, again, to sway people to vote in a certain direction? How is the NDC going to execute this?
You see,
we have a system, one working shift system that has run for as long as I remember.
That is why most things that we make promises on, we justify it with evidence. If you look at our manifestos in the past, we have always justified why we say this could be done, this could be done, that could be done, and this could be done. The 24-hour economy is simple. Let me give you an example of maybe one institution. Let's take something like DVLA that renders some services. By 5 p.m., they say they have closed. You are working here. Maybe you also close around 5 p.m. and you want to get some service done that you want to do it yourself. But because they have closed at 5 p.m., you are not able to get served by DVLA because they have closed. But it is possible for DVLA to run 3 shifts so that at all times, when Benjamin has closed from his work and he is free, his free time that he would have been resting, he can use it to go and execute that particular need that he wants. But we are running an economy where all of us start at the same time, closing at the same time. And the world doesn't also sleep at the same time. Whilst we are awake now, Benjamin, some people are sleeping. Whilst they are awake, we have gone to sleep. How are they going to relate with us? So President Mahama wants our economy to run 24 hours so that at all times when anybody wants to do business with Ghana, it will be interesting for you to have someone to attend to you.
Thank you so much, Kofi Adams, for having joined the conversation this morning. Kofi Adams is Member of Parliament for the Guan Constituency, and he joined us to talk about many issues of national scope germane to our national life. Crucial among them, we spoke about the selection of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Vice President of the country, Vice President of Ghana, as flag bearer of the MPP, and of course the General Hospital, which was brought down in somewhere July 2020 and has not seen the light of day since then. Well, still to come on the show, we'll be telling you about the Ministry of Education and its collaboration with the NEIP. It's all about STEM Novation 2023. All of that after the break.